right, race fans, another week, another show, episode, I guess it would be 204 of the One to Go show. First, a little warning for everybody here that might be tuning in. The following program is a collection of us three knuckleheads here talking about what's going on in the racing world. It's meant to be comedic. Sometimes it is. Sometimes people don't think it's very funny. That's okay, right? And informative. The opinions expressed here don't always, yet they sometimes do. One of my sponsors wanted to point that out, but they don't always represent the opinions of our sponsors, okay? Now, we're probably going to hurt some feelings. I was going to say we might, but probably. We're probably going to hurt some feelings. Might say a couple cuss words, might kind of throw a couple F-bombs in there once in a while. Try not to, but it happens. We're human, right? So if that offends you, if you're soft, if you're kind of that new generation where everything hurts your feelings, go ahead and just turn it off and go watch something else, because this probably won't be for you. And if you got little kids and you don't want to hear them, if you don't want them hearing a little swearing from time to time, probably turn this off. Although your kids go to the racetrack and probably watch you work on the car in your garage, so they probably heard a lot more than what we're going to say on the show. I promise. So, boys, let's get to it. Episode 204, brought to you by Impact Health Sharing. If you're self-employed, if you own a business, if you have employees, you farm, you truck, if you pay for your own health insurance, if you're sick of paying too much for something you maybe don't barely ever use, if you're sick of your insurance company telling you what doctor you can go to, might have a solution for you. Hit me up, 218-969-1380, or hit me up on Facebook. I can get you a no obligation quote. I can send you over all the information you need to see if Impact Health Sharing is a good fit for you. Guys, happy Thanksgiving, man. Happy Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving week. It's a great festive time of the year, kind of the kickoff to the holiday season. I know that Bert's probably got his Christmas tree up. I may have seen that. I gave him a little crap about that. Krause, he had his Christmas tree up a couple weeks ago. He said, I don't ever take it down. I'm like, all right, fair enough. All right.
To be honest, my Christmas tree has been up for 2 years. I never took it down.
I guess you don't have to decorate for Christmas, right? If the tree just stays up. Now, what I don't recommend doing is lighting up the whole neighborhood 365 days a year, which you do not. So, I got a quick question for you guys. We'll just start it off this way. What are you guys thankful for? 2024 coming up, 2023 just about done. Bert, I'll start with you. I mean, what are you thankful for moving into this holiday season?
This is my first time playing fantasy football in like 15 years and got off to a slow start, but I'm only one game under 500 now, knocking on the playoffs door for the playoffs. But no, I mean, seriously, I'm thankful for my health, thankful for my family. Thankful that I live in a country where we get to do this.
Yeah, amen to that. So, Bert in his former quarterback tone started off slow, but relax. Bert said he's coming. Relax. Coach Krause, what are you thankful for?
Bert, I'm looking at the standings here, Bert. Tied for fifth, I see you are in the big fantasy football standings. 5 and 6. You got a long ways to go to catch the old 8-3 team 29 there, Bert. So
but he's gonna take 8-3. Krause team's gonna take an L burger this week.
You just need to make the playoffs. Once the playoffs start, then it's a whole new ball game.
I see I got an X by my team name here. Does that mean something? Did you guys see that?
You're kind of locked in. You're kind of locked into the playoffs. So that L you're going to get this weekend, you probably just take one for the team. Just go ahead and forfeit this week. That'd probably be all right. Help a buddy out here, right? I mean, just go ahead and throw me a bone.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's that time of the year. We're getting into holidays. Obviously, like Bert said, thankful for family, thankful to have a roof over my head, and have a good job that I love doing. I think being able to pay the bills this time in this world is something to have, and obviously you can't take that stuff for granted. So thankful for it's for letting you guys let me on the show. I know we have a lot of fun with it and doing my own podcast. Heck, I even did Track Talk last night. I did a radio show with Jason Berg up there in the Fargo area, so that was kind of fun. So yeah, there's a lot to thankful my hockey teams. We're 11-4-1. We're still winning, so I got to be thankful for that too as well.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get booted out here is what you're gonna have to do. We gotta get a little fireworks. We need a little action, but yeah, off to a good start with the blizzard there. And for myself, family, friends, right? I mean, the older I get, the more I look at it, and don't get me wrong, we all gotta have money. We got things we like to do, we got bills we gotta pay. But for me, having the time to enjoy life with the people I care about, do the things I want, having a strong family network, and being able to go spend time with my parents and do things like that. I'm going to see my daughter, of course, this weekend, and a lot of friends, the racing community as a whole. And we're critical a lot of times of a lot of different stuff. But the one thing that I'm probably most passionate about in this sport is the people I've literally met from coast to coast to border in the racing world. Got a lot of great friends, a lot of people that I've met over the years, and just super thankful for that. So, speaking of critical, let's get into it. We got a little Wissota news, boys. A little Wissota news. Now, before we get into it, quick shout out to our buddy Brad Parsons Soil and Egg Solution. So if you're over in Western Minnesota, North Dakota, if you're over in that neck of the woods, right? If you're in farming, if you're looking, how can I be more profitable in 2024? How can I get better yields? How can I make more money? Well, having the right stuff in your spray packages is going to give you an advantage. Call Brad. His number, 320-219-3542, and find out what he has to offer. See how he can help you have a better 2024. So, guys, three main topics come to mind here. We talked about the Wissota meeting, Wissota banquet, and all that stuff last week. Coach Kraus, you talked to me a little bit a couple days ago. So they voted in at the meetings. The tech committee brought it up. I think Russ Ebert perhaps brought it up. A prototype front clip designed by Howe for the modifieds. A tubular front end is what they're looking at. And their initial plans were to build 6 cars, do a little testing with it. Chassis builders at the meeting said, hey, this is probably going to be a cheaper option. Sounds like a little hiccup there. What's going on? What have you heard?
I didn't hear much about it. And then I was talking with Jeff Flatt from Turbine Chassis, obviously owns Turbine, and my son Ryan's in a Turbine modified, and he built my other Supers a Turbine. And, obviously, I ran Turbine there for a few years, and he bought the chassis. He had called Billy and said he wanted to build one of these cars, and Billy told him no. He said, supposedly, I guess like I said, they're building 6 prototype cars with this Howe front clip. And supposedly this wasn't voted on. And Billy said, we're going to come up with a scenario and get this figured out. So supposedly MB Customs, SSR, and JMR, J McDonald, we're going to get 2 each to build these cars. And anybody could run them. If you wanted to run one, contact them. Well, supposedly that's dead right now. Those 3 chassis builders don't want to build a modified with this front stuff. That's just what from I've heard. I've been talking with Como Joe a little bit, with Joe Staria. And he had got a call from Dave Kane, and obviously, like I said, I was talking to Flatten, so I did some homework here and tried to figure out what was going on. Now, supposedly those guys were going to send a letter to all the promoters. We have not received that letter. I haven't received anything. So as of right now, I do not know. I was going to give Dan Ebert a call or somebody, or maybe Trantina knows something a little bit more going on here with this. But like I said, that's what I heard. That this prototype, this Howe front clip, may be dead right now.
Yeah, with a little bit I know about this, it looks like it could be a pretty good deal moving forward if they kind of figure it all out and get the right jigs in place. Not sure how I feel about them handpicking what chassis builders are allowed to build a car. I think that's kind of maybe opening themselves up for a lawsuit, right? So they got to be careful there. We don't need, that kind of headache. If there's a chassis builder out there, I mean, Jeff Lawton builds a good car. His kid's pretty quick. He was actually pretty sporty in that thing. Then you got TRC out there. You got a lot of different chassis builders that could go ahead and build one of these cars. I mean, heck, affordable. They don't build a lot of modifieds, but they can fabricate one. I think that's kind of a slippery slope there. So it'll be interesting to see how that moves forward. Bert, what's your thoughts? Should they be allowing, if they're going to have a prototype, should they be handpicking a certain chassis builder in your eyes, or should they kind of open that up to whoever wants to do it?
I don't think they should be handpicking chassis builders to build these with this front clip on it. I mean, if you're going to allow the front clip, to me, the fair thing to do is whoever wants to build a chassis with that front clip should be allowed to build it as long as it meets all the specifications that are put forward by WISSOTA or whoever. Yeah, I mean, to me, if you're picking chassis builders to pick it, that to me, that's just going to increase the cost, not decrease the cost.
Yeah, one would think, and it's interesting that AJ Demo, it sounded like, I wasn't at the meetings, but it sounded like upon initial conversation, and maybe he did some research after the fact that maybe that's why he doesn't like it. But initial conversations, it sounded like AJ and MB is like, hey, this looks like a good idea. And then it was interesting that just a short period of time later, they said, now we want nothing to do with this deal. So Coach Kraus is kind of in the loop on that. We'll let him, we'll follow up here in the weeks to come. Another thing here that came out at the meeting was the tire penalty discussion. So earlier this year, a street stock driver out in Mandan, Dakota Speedway, Jaden Chris got caught with what they considered altered tires, right? I don't know the specifics. I never saw the data, but needless to say, they said that there was materials in the tire that did not meet the benchmark, and the penalty at the time was a 1-year suspension from WISSOTA Racing. Okay, so they got themselves an IMCA car. They're going to play around with that until he can race again. But at the meetings this year, they voted to make this a 30-day suspension if you get caught with altered tires. Now, a second infraction, of course, would be 1 year. So being that, I got a question here from Joe, a fan question. Being that they changed it to a 30-day suspension because the promoters felt like this is way too long, this is ridiculous, like we can't be losing cars, should they prorate that and allow Jaden Chris to race opening night of the WISSOTA season in 2024?
Well, I mean, technically, when he was dinged with it, it was a 1-year suspension. So, I mean, if you want to go by the letter of the law, he should still sit out his 1 year. But obviously, you can change that rule, or you can make an exception if you want to. It's whether they want to or not.
Coach, you're a promoter,
they're gonna have to
right?
stick.
So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, they're gonna have to stick with that deal. It's a tough deal because I know they changed some fines, the amounts too as well, some 500 to 1,000 to 500. Now we were talking about some stuff like that too. So now you're gonna go back and take the guys that got fined this year and give them money back or get more money from them. So it's a tough deal. It did get brought up, and obviously, the flip side is, people talked about too. The penalty was so harsh. Now, now maybe some tracks might be able to police the tire stuff a little bit more, send some more samples in. Now it's 30 days and 1,000. It's not a 1-year suspension deal. So we might be able to police that a little bit more too with the tire stuff. So I think that's a good thing too. But yeah, no, we got to stick to our guns with, what happened last year to Jaden. It's super tough. It was pretty much a unanimous change to get that back down to basically what everything else is, a 30-day and 1,000.
I wouldn't die on a fence either way. I felt like it was way too harsh when it initially happened, and I get that's what the penalty was. And obviously the promoters agree because they're like, we can't be having a 1-year suspension for this. I personally would be like, look, he served his time. They're in an area of WISSOTA, which that shouldn't matter because it doesn't matter where it is or who it is. But they're in an area of WISSOTA out there where there's a lot of IMCA stuff going on. Whether it's him or anybody else, he's already paid the price. He missed invitational season. He lost his points. He lost all of in any shot at a championship he had. I would not be overly opposed to them letting him start the 2024 season. If they don't let him, I can certainly understand that as well. But it'll be interesting to see. I think they're gonna make some phone calls and try to make something happen. Bert, you had something?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, we talk a lot on this podcast about, how we want to make racing better, and the reason we bring up stuff is, we want to bring it to the attention of everybody to make the sport better. I mean, is this a case where because we talked about it on the I'm not saying that's the only reason, but the podcast helped bring this to light on how severe this suspension is, and got, maybe some of our talk helped the promoters realize that, hey, so, we don't always just preach doom and gloom. I mean, we are trying to make the sport better.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Because we definitely if there's something negative that happens, we'll drop the hammer. We'll bring it up. That's next, right? We're going to talk about that next. But I also like to be the person that has a solution, right? If there's a problem, hey, here's a solution. So I would like to think that maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. We're just three knuckleheads with mics here on a podcast, so maybe not. But I think that's a valid point. So here's a doozy for you. This is kind of the number one hot topic of WISSOTA, and I should, I don't know, Bert, you can decide. I should almost give Kraus a donkey award for not telling us about this beforehand. I'm not really sure, but you know what? We'll spare him. It's Thanksgiving. I'm in the mood. It's a holiday. It's a holiday week. There's only so many donkey awards to go around, and there's a whole lot of WISSOTA board members, and I'm giving all of them a donkey award for their complete ineptitude of what's going on. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So here's the story. I got a couple messages after last week's show. They're like, how could you possibly not talk about the biggest freaking thing that was talked about at the meetings? I'm like, I got nothing. Don't know what you're talking about. I thought we hit everything. In 2023, in the season, the WISSOTA Promoters Association lost in the vicinity of $150,000 to $200,000, somewhere in that range, as compared. So what I mean by that is after the meeting, right after the banquet, when the point fund money was paid out, when they did a comparison, right, of what they had for money at the end of 2024 or at the end of 2022 as compared to 2023, they had a whole lot less. In fact, it's such a big number, right, that if they did exactly the same thing in 2024, the company would go bankrupt, and there would be no money left. It's a bad deal, right? So here, a couple things come to mind, right? From what I understand, the WISSOTA board, knew nothing about this till like literally the day before the meeting. How is that possible, right? What that tells me, guys, is this. The WISSOTA board as a whole, okay, they are so far removed from anything that is going on in this organization that they are just not competent. If you're going to be on the board, be active, right? You'd be doing something. How can a business of any kind not have like at the very least a quarterly meeting? Maybe they have a monthly board meeting. Do they not talk about the financials at their monthly board meetings? How could they not know that they were so far behind in money? What they did, in my opinion, now I don't know this to be fact, this is just speculation here, okay? But Rod Lindquist, he resigned right after the meeting, okay? Now, people that I've talked to, I've had a couple people comment, they said, well, he resigned because he lost all their money. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because he's one guy. There's a board of directors that should be overseeing what all the employees do. This ain't all on Rod. And I'm not saying he had no part in this, because he certainly did. But my goodness, is he the scapegoat? How is the board should all be replaced, right? Any employee, and I have absolutely no idea, none, of who is able to be in charge of the money, handling the money, making those financial decisions? I don't know. I don't know if that's a board or just the employees, combination of both. But the fact that the board knew nothing about this is ridiculous. This falls on the board of directors for a multitude of reasons. One, they should be demanding a monthly report of where we're sitting financially. There should be, is there not a budgeting meeting, right? How is there not a budgeting meeting? I don't really understand that. This is a business. How does that not happen? Also, the board chooses the employees. They're the one who picks the employee. It ain't the promoters that pick the employees. The promoters pick the board. The board hires the employees. I've personally been saying for years that the people that they're hiring are not qualified to be in the positions they're in. It's a good old boys club and gals club. And quite frankly, it's who you know. It's not how good you are at your job. It's who you know. They're handpicking people that just are their buddies. This is a travesty. It's an embarrassment to Wissota. And I just got to be honest. It really, really stings. It pisses me off. Like we talk about Wissota, we throw them under the bus, we do this, but only after they do something stupid. It don't get more stupid than this, right? I got a lot of different things here we'll talk about, but your initial thoughts, Bert, on when you hear that this organization, and Kraus, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they ended the season with under $100,000 in their bank account. And this is the time of year they paid out their point fund, right? And they've already spent their money. It's kind of set up that way to where you have significantly less after the banquet because you're paying everything out. But Bert, are you surprised that they literally lost that kind of money in one calendar year?
Well, I mean, based on what you just said, I mean, if that's all accurate, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they don't have a check and balance system, as to, what's coming in and what's going out. And, I mean, the first thing I would do is demand that a professional audit be done, to find out, where the money went, and that sort of thing. And I mean, there has to be some sort of, like I said, there has to be some sort of checks and balances to make sure, and some sort of system to make sure that board members know what is going on financially. Because board members should not find out the day before an annual meeting about a financial situation like that.
No, and that's as much on them, right? That's on the board. That's not just on the employees. That's on the board. I had a couple people comment, right? And they're like, there's only two ways an organization like that loses that kind of money, right? There's only two ways. One, somebody stole the money. I do not think for a minute that is what happened. I don't believe that because there's a lot of different things when looking at the financials that it's like, yeah, no, they were completely incompetent is what they were doing. They had no idea. They literally didn't budget anything. I don't think anybody took any money. I really don't. So I don't even want to go down that road. Okay. It happens in organizations all the time, but I don't think that's the case here. Now, the other side is just complete ineptitude, right? So let's just face it, right? They had roughly the same amount of cars, right, last year as they had the year before. Well, where does their money come from? Their money comes from Wissota licenses, events. You got to pay sanctioning fees. A big money maker for the organization is the Wissota 100. And Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were more profitable at the Wissota 100 this year than they were last year. So that's even like, what the hell are they doing, right? Because initially I'm thinking, well, they hired that guy. Who was the guy they had come in and he performed? They kind of did the after party. You remember? They ended
Johnny Holmes, the concert.
Yeah, Johnny Holmes. So they hired him, and I'm thinking, well, maybe that. But that was all figured into the 100, and they made more money. Now they cut the purse. What was it, about $8,000, $8,500, somewhere in that vicinity? They actually paid out less, right? They cut the purse. We talked about that before, so that's a big one. But then you look at it, it's like, okay, so they hired more employees. Okay, that's great. I'm all for having staff, right? But where's that money coming from? Because if their revenue is sponsorship dollars, which was a little down, but less than 10 grand it was down, right? So they had less sponsors, they had about the same money coming in from tracks and drivers, more money coming in from the 100, but not much. It kind of offset the downshift in sponsorship money. So essentially they had about the same amount of revenue. Well, if you have the same amount of revenue, you can't have considerably more expenses. What are we doing here, right? So they had more employees. They gave some employees raises, right? What are we doing there? Like, where's that money coming from? The next thing is they had that MPH Invitational in Bemidji, and hey, they tried it, whatever. I'm not opposed to them trying stuff. Things happen. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. That lost a bunch of money. Probably not great planning on a couple things they did there. They got the PRI show coming up here in December. Please explain to me, Bert, Coach, one of you two, maybe. Please explain to me why WISSOTA needs to spend the money to have a booth at the PRI. They aren't selling nothing. They're not expanding all over the country. I understand sending a person or two down there to go talk to all these different vendors, build relationships, try to get contingency sponsors and all that. But why does WISSOTA have a booth? That's unnecessary spending right there. Why, in the world we live in today, we all know people that work from home. There is huge businesses, huge organizations where their staff, office people, right, they work from home. Why are we spending, I believe it's upwards of $20,000 a year renting out a little, I don't know, coffee club office space or whatever you want to call it in St. Cloud? It's nothing more than where the clique gets together and they kind of do their thing. Everything that's done in that office is either done by phone or on the computer. That can be done from home. It's unnecessary. We don't need that. Take that money, put it towards the drivers. We don't need an office for that. The Challenge Series, we talked about that. They lost 30 grand last year. Pretty much all of that was employee costs, and it sounds like they're cutting back, making some changes there. It's ridiculous. Now, from what I understand, there are some promoters that are taking a look at the books and trying to figure out, hey, what can we do to change? How can we fix this moving forward? So they are taking some action steps, but I'm just flabbergasted, right? That they get rid of Dennis McCauley because, oh man, he's a bully. He's mean. He was the only freaking active board member out of all of them. He was more active than all of them combined. It wasn't even a close thing. We're going to get rid of him because he was mean and he hurt people's feelings and he told the truth. So we're worried about somebody that's hurting somebody's feelings, right? But on the same side, we're just going to keep all these people here that literally couldn't run a freaking lemonade stand. It's unbelievable, right? And don't get me wrong, there's some business people on the board that probably do great at their business, but they're also actively involved in their business. They aren't actively involved here. Kind of sounds like, I don't know, I don't want to get into politics or whatever, but when you're more worried about hurt feelings than you are about paying attention to the financials, you end up with a freaking shit show, and that's what we have here. Guys, thoughts?
Well, I have a question. Does WISSOTA work with a professional accounting firm to keep their finances?
Coach?
Or do
I don't believe so. As far as I know, Gus is the treasurer, as far as I know. So I didn't see anything on there that says that. So as far as I know, no.
I think they have an accountant that does their taxes, but I don't think they have an accountant that is like, hey, we're going to help you make decisions, which I don't think they need that, as long as you have like active people saying, okay, hey, here's where we are. I mean, you don't need to be complete rocket scientists to be like, okay, here's the money we have coming in. Here's what we want to spend. Something ain't adding up here, right? Like, we learned basic math in grade school. Okay, we kind of understand how that works. I mean, what were they thinking that, hey, miraculously we're going to make an extra 150,000 at the 100? I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, I get it. It's an oversight, things happen, but that's a big chunk of change. I believe they were down over 60% compared to the year before, that's a big hit. And it's not because, well, there was rainouts or what. It was just literally lack of awareness from all the people involved. And man, I guess I'm glad that they caught it before they ran out of all the money, because there are some very sharp promoters that I do know that are actually going to be kind of stepping in to maybe help with the process moving forward.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, okay, you lost money this year, but I mean, you have to fix it. You have to figure out what went wrong, and you need to come up with a plan to make money, because losing money every year is a losing proposition. And you know, you can't do that for very long before you're in really serious trouble.
If they duplicate in 2024 what just happened in 2023, they are bankrupt. It was that they have that little money to work with, right? To where if they do this again, it's over. It's done. There is no more WISSOTA. We're going to move on. That's it. So they have to fix the problem. Now, the only way to fix the problem is increase revenue, right? And really the only revenue, God dang, I really hope the only revenue is getting sponsor money, right? Because if they get through their thick skulls, well, we're just going to go ahead and charge the drivers more, which they did last year. They upped the fees last year, by the way. I'm not sure if you remember that, Cross. I was at that meeting. They did up the sanctioning fees last year. So they increased the fees last year already. Well, you can't increase the fees enough to offset that kind of money. So I'm not all about increasing the fees. I'm about, in this scenario, if you want to create more money, that you can do fundraisers. There's different fundraising activities that you can do. Look at that deal they do at Fairbury, right, at the Prairie Dirt Classic. They generate like $100,000 of revenue to work with there. So they could do some different things to create some revenue. The other thing they can do on the flip side of that, get more sponsors, but you have to cut. You have to cut expenses, right? I mean, and a couple of the big ones, Coach, we kind of talked about this after the fact, is the MPH deal was a huge loss. That was a big chunk. What do you remember what the number was on that? Was it like 20 or 30 grand they lost on that deal?
No, I didn't think it was that much. Was it? Was it about 7,000-8,000? I thought we talked
Is
about
it okay?
the MPH.
Okay.
But it's still, like I said, it's still lost money.
Yeah, the Challenge Series was a big hit. That was about 30. But so you start looking 30 here and 10 there and 5 here, and pretty soon. So you got them numbers they gotta get closer together. So the group of people working on this, it's not an easy task, because there's not a lot of things they spend money on, but figuring out what you're gonna cut, what's important, what's not important, how are we gonna grow this deal. It'll be interesting to see how they move forward in 2024. So another thing on fan feedback here, but first a little shout out here to our friends over in Ashland, Wisconsin. Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating, home of the Galloper chassis, proud sponsor of the #1 series in all of WISSOTA racing, the Northland Superstock Series. They build cars, custom fabricating, sandblasting, powder coating. They sell any parts that you need. They can ship anywhere. Great group of people up in Ashland. Get a hold of Chris and the gang. Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating. So Ricky sent me this, and World of Outlaws. Let's shift gears from local, go World of Outlaws. So the schedule came out for the World of Outlaw Late Model Series for 2024. Guys, 33 tracks on the schedule. 16 of those tracks are new venues. That's over half. That's crazy, or that's just shy of half, I guess, is what it is. Is that surprising to you that there's 16 new venues on the World of Outlaw late model schedule?
It's a little surprising. I think part of that is, well, this is just speculation on my part, but tracks think it would be a good idea to have a World of Outlaw show, one of the filler shows in between the big shows, and they have their show and they lose money, or it's not as successful as they thought it was going to be, so then they decide not to do it for another year. Well, then the World of Outlaws, they have to go out and find another track that to fill that void. I think that could be part of it.
Well, here's the deal, and I'm glad you brought that up because when I was helping out significantly with the Grand Rapids Speedway COVID year, we were looking at hosting a World of Outlaw late model invitational, right, or late model special, and we got to looking at the numbers, and it's like, in order to make that work, we're going to need some pretty good, attendance in the crowd, and going to have to generate some sponsorship money to make that happen. Now, couple problems run in when they usually, and for the driver's sake, this is a great deal. When they have these shows, they try to lump 3-4 of them together, 2-3-4 of them together, so that way it offsets travel costs for the teams. Great deal. But you look at Grand Rapids, if they were going to do it there, and then you got one in Ogilvie that year, and then there was going to be Superior, and then right down the road in Fergus Falls, and pretty soon you're like, well, that pretty much eliminates any opportunity for most of them fans to drive to your track because they're already having it, right? Now, on the flip side of that, I don't know why I keep getting text messages on my screen. Interesting. I'm trying to figure out how to use this new phone, guys. So you're not getting those fans coming in, especially when you buy a subscription to Dirt Vision, a one-time, one fee a year. You don't have to keep paying per event, right? That's bad for racing when you have Dirt Vision. The tracks don't even get a kick out of that. The tracks get $0 from Dirt Vision. So I think you're right. Some of these tracks, smaller venues, smaller fan bases, kind of stuck between a couple bigger places. Maybe it's a losing proposition for them. Coach Kraus.
Yeah, no, it's not surprising at all with the amount it costs to host one of them shows. Especially, we looked in at a Viking too. Even the World Outlaw Sprint Cars, it's even more to host them with their sanctioning fees. And then same with the late models. And then the flip side is the late models up their purse this year too at all these tracks. And all of a sudden, if you're doing a 10 grand show, you're paying out a lot more. And there's a lot of $12,000 and $15,000 shows. So now all of a sudden, some of these tracks are going, God, I only made a little bit of money, or if I lost a little bit of money, I'm going to lose even more. So it's a super big risk, especially right now financially. And it's World Outlaw late model sprint cars. It's $45-$50 a ticket to get into these places, and you got to make sure you're in the right country, in the right part of the country, to make sure you're filling the grandstand. So 16 is a lot, but it doesn't surprise me at all with the landscape of racing these days.
Sorry, Bert.
I was just going to say, another thing is, I mean, these races, for them to have the best shot to succeed, need to be held in areas where there are open late model cars in the area. I mean, Shawano Speedway held a World of Outlaw late model event for around 10 years. I don't know if they ever got over 30 cars. It was low 30s, but the local cars, they're not open motor cars. So yes, they're racing, but they really can't compete with the World of Outlaw late models. So I think you have a better chance for success if it's in an area of the country where there are open late models. And like in Shawano Speedway situation, when they first started having the world late models, I mean, World of Outlaws, I mean, that was big news. I mean, the grandstands were filled for the first couple of years, but then as the years went by, attendance, kind of dwindled each year. And then eventually, they just said, we're not going to host them anymore.
That's exactly why they're going to Wilmot this year. Just kidding. So biggest surprise, right? Biggest surprise when you looked at the schedule. Was there anything that stuck out and you're like, oh wow, that stuck out? Either one of you guys?
Well, you pointed it out to me. The Go for 50 is going to be World of Outlaws this year instead of Lucas. How many years was that, Lucas? It wasn't many.
No, I guess I don't know exactly offhand, but it was a handful, but it wasn't a ton.
Because I mean, it was big news when that went from when it switched to Lucas, and now it's switching back.
Right. Kraus, anything stick out to you?
No, not really. I didn't really look at it, too in depth. Just obviously the swing up here changed. I-94 is on Thursday now, and then they're going to Grand Forks on Friday, and then obviously hitting Norman County Raceway on Saturday. I would assume that had something to do with Fargo not being able to host that show with Bitker there, because they were in Fargo last year, and it was actually a pretty decent race. Gustin should have won it, but Marlar ended up winning. It was actually a decent race there. So, and obviously Fargo, you have the people and you have the facility and the grandstand. And you can fill that place. So that was a little interesting to see they're going to Norman County. Like I said, I haven't did any research on it, but I would assume Bitker had to move that for some reason because he couldn't race in Fargo.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to find out. There's got to be some kind of a scheduling contract with the fair or something going on there, because, like you said, I mean, that was a big surprise to me of switching from Fargo to Ada. I raced a ton of shows in Ada, and I had some good races. It'll be interesting to say the least. I hope they have a good show up there. It's a pretty rural area, so when we're talking, it's not a ton of miles from Fargo. I mean, what is it, a half hour, maybe 40 minutes from the kind of the Fargo Moorhead metro area. So, I mean, it's within driving distance, but it's not like it's sitting right in a big town with a big fan base. They don't get a huge crowd up there. So it'll be really interesting to see how that works out. Final question on this topic. So where I initially saw the post was Ricky Thornton Jr.'s Facebook page. Kind of found that interesting. Could he be jumping ship and going World of Outlaw racing instead of Lucas Oil racing in 2024?
Go ahead.
Well, don't steal my bold prediction, Bert. I'm going to throw that out on the line. That's one of my bold prediction that he's jumping ship to World of Outlaw. So you guys can't use that. So I thought it was very interesting. And then today or yesterday, he posted the World of Outlaw Extreme Midget schedule too as well. So he's got something going on there. And especially Lucas hasn't even posted their schedule. Lucas posted their schedule first last year, and Outlaws came out after. Did some research on that today. So there's something's going on. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does.
Now, he didn't post on Facebook that he was all butthurt about the championship or anything like that, but let's face it, he was butthurt about the championship, right? He was professional about it, but he definitely did not say anything about it on social media yet. He may, but he hasn't yet. Another thing is, a lot of these drivers will kind of do their commitment deal to both of them during speed weeks, and then come March is when they kind of make that decision when they split. I probably stole that from you, Bert. Is that what you're going to say?
Oh, no, I mean, I had thought about that earlier, but I didn't have it in my mind when you said that. But yeah, I mean, they kind of decide later on, although that may not have as big of an influence on, RTJ, because, I mean, he was up by 500 points going into the last week, or, going into the final race. So, even if you're leading the Lucas Oil Series at the point where you have to make a decision, it still comes down to one race.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The silly season is here. We still have a couple big races here to close out 2024, a little bit of an off season, like a week and a half or something like that, and then we get back to it. So it'll be fun to see who lands where. So let's jump into our weekly pick'em segment from this past week. First, a shout out to our friends over at Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants. So these guys do a lot more. We've been talking a lot about the tire treatment, allowing tires to last longer. They use that in the Gen X. But guys, they have lubricants for a ton of different applications. In fact, Buck, who is actually the founder, the owner of this company, he's in the Hall of Fame for NASA. Yes, you heard of Josh Dobbs? There's also Buck, right? So we got NASA guys here, right? So he's in the Hall of Fame for lubricants in NASA, and we're going to be talking in the coming weeks. We're going to have a little tidbit about some of the other products they have. But go ahead, check them out online. Check them out on Facebook. That's Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants. So last week's movers and shakers, Bert, Curtis spread it out just a little bit more. Our point leader, Curtis, had an 8-bagger last week. Bert, Dan, and Mike with good weeks had 6. I had 4 points. Brad had 3. Kent and Jeff had 2. Now, our current standings as it sits. Now, from the best I can guess, talking with Jeff earlier, we have 11 races remaining to pick. We got 3 this week. We have 2 XR Super Series events at Alltech next week. And then at the Dome, we're going to pick 3 nights of the mods, 3 nights of the late models, and then we end it at the Dome. Okay. Bert's out there thinking we need Hornets, Enduro, right? Go-karts. we got to make this happen. But we have 11 races left for Bert to close the gap and go 3 in a row. Curtis at 228, Bert, the 2-time and defending champion, at 222. Dan at 211. Brad is at 205, 1 point ahead of Mike. Those boys kind of talked a little smack back and forth. They're really close. Kent at 193, 5 points ahead of me at 188. Not so hot Carl at 163. Now, keep in mind, he hasn't made a pick in like a month, right? His brother Jeff at 146, 17 points back. If there's 11 races left, that means that there's 22 available points. Very, very thin margin there for Jeff to maybe come back and beat his brother at the end of this deal. This week, we're picking USAC Midgets in California. Tonight, we're doing the show. It's Tuesday. So Tuesday and Wednesday at Merced and Ventura. They got a big show there, 10 grand to win on Saturday. So I'll look back at the shows here that we from last week. There was a lot of racing, right? Not a lot of craziness, nothing big, but just a little recap, a couple things that happened. First, a shout out Zuli's Race Engines, that time of year, right? Looking forward to 2024. You want to win races? Get a good power plant. Zuli's Race Engines has that. You want to win championships? Get a durable power plant. They have that as well. So if you can't beat them, join them. That's Zuli's Race Engines. So one of the cool events on the calendar, guys, that I was pretty excited about, and I watched the feature from last week. So the Volusia Speedway down in Florida, they have the Emil and Dale Ruderman Memorial. I think it was like the 11th annual or something like that. The Thrill from Mooresville, Nick Hoffman parked it in Victory Lane, running the number 7 car. But one thing that stuck out to me, I don't know if you guys watched the feature, but so Buzzy Ruderman still getting after it, right? David Ruderman, I was surprised, I don't know if he's hurt or whatever, but he didn't race. But Buzzy Ruderman, 82 years old, still racing. He had to pull off twice because he ran out of tear-offs, I think twice. The track was, let's just say it didn't get dusty, right? It was kind of a debacle. But they had a really cool, I really like the replica cars. I think it's really cool when, you have a legend in your area that this guy's been huge in racing and somebody takes one of their cars, might have been them themselves, I don't know, and they build a replica. And that was the pace car to this race. So that was pretty cool. And then Drake Troutman, hell of a run, 21st to 2nd in that deal. I think there was, I don't know, Kraus can maybe know the exact number. I think 872 yellows, not 100% sure, but it took forever. I think it was a 50-lap feature, which Kraus doesn't think that's enough laps, but I do. I mean, either one of you guys watch that feature? Anything else stick out to you at Volusia?
Yeah.
So another race that was actually pretty entertaining, pretty good show, pretty good weekend, hell of a good car count. So Springfield, Missouri, they had the 17th annual Turkey Bowl. Too many classes, but still good racing nonetheless. A very stout mod field. Remember, USMTS is done, so a bunch of them hitters came. They raced that deal. Tom Berry Jr. came from pretty deep, maybe 11th or something like that. Parked it in Victory Lane. Second place driver, I don't know this guy, Sawyer Krigler. I'm not even sure why, but he had a pretty good run. He was running the outside. He got DQ'd. I'm assuming light, maybe. I'm not really 100% positive. Late models, Tyler Stevens parked in Victory Lane, but pretty good field of cars. Pretty good racing. Good top, good bottom. Might be one for folks to check out this time of year next year. Either one of you get a chance to watch anything at Springfield.
Yeah, I rewatched the mod race. Just wanted to see what it was like. Obviously, Tom Berry Jr. was really fast. He was right around the bottom, and that was it. Krigler. He was pretty good. I thought he was going to get him up top. And then one surprising thing on that one, Ryan, they only started 20 cars, and there was 56 there. I thought that was really puzzling to me. It's not a little. I mean, it's a little bullring, but I wouldn't consider it a Macon or a Fairbury by no means. So I was really surprised that they only started 20 cars there. And then, you had the DQ, and then there's only 14 cars that finished at the end. So I thought that was a little surprising, but the race was just kind of okay. Track was really good. It had a high side. It had a top. There was just a lot of grip down there, and Barry was just rolling that bottom and pulling off the corner. So really good quality cars. That was cool to see. So it looked like a pretty cool place, and was hoping for a little bit more exciting race, but Tom Barry was just pretty much dominant.
Kenny Schrader, well, actually Herminator was there, and I don't think he made the show. Kenny Schrader was there. I think he ran top 5 in both the A mod and in the B mod, so he had a really good run, really good weekend there. But also another replica car. It was a Larry Phillips Memorial, is what it was. So they actually had a throwback of one of his cooler cars. They had the Larry Phillips number 75 pacing the field before the late model feature, and I think that was the 17th annual, and Terry Phillips is leading the way with 4 Turkey Bowl wins. Chris Jackson in the J2 won the B mods and tied him for his 4th. Oh, there we go. Phone calls coming in. I still don't know how. I have no idea how to put it on do not disturb. No clue. Have no idea. I know how to do it on my old phone. I do it on this phone. It just does not work. I don't understand. So, good racing at Springfield. So, Southern All-Stars, not overly eventful at Southern Raceway. The announcer kind of makes it a little bit more exciting and fun. You got Dwayne Keith. He's kind of got the wrestling throwback. He's really getting after it. Some people are like, that guy's freaking annoying, right? And some guys, I kind of enjoy him because he's got so much energy and he's so much different. So it was kind of worth watching just to hear him. Night number 1, Dalton Cook won. Night number 2, Joseph Joyner. I will say this. So, yeah, us Wissota people up here, right? Sometimes we complain about tracks a little dusty. I got a buddy of mine over in Grand Rapids, Jim, that he's a little opinionated once in a while. That's probably why we like each other, because we're kind of the same. And he'll get just hammering on racetracks about the dust. This guy would have a heart attack if he went to some of these Southern tracks, right? Southern Raceway is a dump. I'm telling you, that place is awful. It's just completely gravel, dusty, rough. He would literally lose his mind. Kraus, are you thankful that our racetracks up here are significantly better than most of the racetracks down there?
Yeah, for sure. You see them all the time, and it's dust, and it's tough. It's a different dirt, different heat down there. Especially it's a lot different up here too when the sun comes out and the heat up. It's a different ball game up here. But yeah, that's that I just saw a clip of it, and I'm like, holy smokes! I don't know if you sent it to me or someone sent it to me. I was like, holy smokes!
Yeah, she was dusty for sure. Palmetto State 50 at Lancaster, South Carolina. Didn't get a chance to watch that one, but Ben Watkins and a Longhorn got it done. Bert, did you watch that one at all?
I did not.
I couldn't even find that one. And then we have 2 more here. So the Gobbler, probably the best race of the weekend that I watched, right, was the Gobbler at Duck River. Bad mother effer, right? The BMF chassis, Tanner English parking in Victory Lane. Bert, I know you watched that race. Any thoughts there from Duck River?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good race. Tanner English started on the outside of the front row and took the lead right away, so I thought he was just gonna walk away with it. But he actually lost the lead to Sewell or something like that. And
Sam Seawright.
Seawright, yeah. And
Ryan Seacrest.
Didn't retake the lead until under 20 laps to go. And yeah, he went on to win. And yeah, in his victory lane speech, he was talking about the chassis and how good it is. Well, then the other interesting comment that he made when he was talking about the chassis was, something to the effect of, it's nice to have the support, or it's nice to have people who will give you the support that you need, or something like that. Which, as soon as he said that, I thought, okay, so the previous chassis that he was racing wasn't, I thought he was insinuating they weren't giving him the support that he thought that he should be getting.
There has been some grumblings about that, like kind of the later, middle half of the year, later in the year, right? Some of the top tier drivers, there's just been little comments back and forth where no real major shots necessarily,
Right.
but things have changed. And of course, look how many people jumped over to Longhorn. I mean, when you get that many teams coming over there, pretty soon it's like, well, there's only so many people working there. How do we support all these different drivers? So that's going to be the challenge moving forward for the Longhorn crew down in Charlotte, to see if they can keep all their customers happy. Not an easy task. And then the probably the biggest event of the weekend, the biggest race, the 33rd annual Blue Gray 100 down at Cherokee, Gaffney, South Carolina. Whew, another dump. That place just does not, in my opinion, right? It just does not produce good racing.
I didn't see any of it. Was it a choo-choo?
It was a choo-choo. Yeah. It didn't seem to like lock up like rubber necessarily, but it was like clean in one spot, especially on exit on both ends, right? Coming off of 2 and coming off 4. It's like you could be in one spot. You could enter maybe a little different, but you had to exit in one spot. So, it was literally like, I watched it and it was like a train race going around the track. There was a couple guys trying high getting in, but it was just not eventful. Kraus, so Madden won that deal. Any thoughts on Cherokee?
No, first thought is we got to get rid of these 100-lap racers. I can't. There's no rhyme or reason why that race should have been 100 laps. There just isn't. It was for 20 grand. Shirley's car owner and Viper Motorsports, all these guys are getting up there about the cost. Well, what's it cost to run $100 or 100-lap race? The wear and tear on the engine. They always go by laps on those engines and those cars. Hey, this motor's got 3,000 laps on it, or whatever it may be. You got to start cutting these down. They're not more exciting. They're not. Unless they start rubbering up and you start blowing tires. But then the drivers get mad. But it's exciting from that standpoint. So yeah, Mad wasn't really challenged. He would have really, really left them. But a couple guys started blowing right rear tires late in that race, so he was really babying it. He was driving his car super tight. I don't know if you noticed that he was going into one and driving up the track to save that right rear. So he's obviously really good at saving tires. He's won a lot of races saving his tires. So it wasn't much of a race. It just I saw the 100 laps and I was like, no, we got to put an end to these 100 lap races.
I agree. I think that was his ninth. I think it was his ninth Blue Gray too. Like he's won a lot of races down at Cherokee for sure. Any closing thoughts on any of these races from this past weekend, or no? Nothing. No. The other thing that happened at Cherokee is Ethan Dotson ended upside down in the heat. Probably the biggest excitement of the week. It wasn't. He was okay. I don't think the car got massively destroyed by any means. A little tin damage there, but other than that, there's nothing really that stuck out over the weekend. Let's jump into the last lap here, brought to you by our friends over at Dirt Track Supply in Watertown, South Dakota, home of the Aero Chassis. Of course, Ron and Trevor Anderson, very accomplished behind the wheel, very accomplished in the racing community, building cars, doing fabricating, selling parts. They service a lot of racetracks. Just great people to have in your corner in racing. And this weekend, or actually Friday, they're having a pretty cool deal. They're having a Black Friday deal. You don't hear too many Black Friday deals in the racing world, but they're going to have a Black Friday deal. So if you're in the racing community, if you're over in Watertown on Friday, stop in and say hi to those guys at Dirt Track Supply. Bert, Eastern Wisconsin, you sent me a couple tidbits. What's going on over there?
You talking about my asphalt thing that I sent you?
Yep.
Yeah. The SRX series is going to return to Slinger Speedway in 2024, sometime in late July. It's going to be part of the Thursday Night Thunder package that SRX is part of. And if you remember, SRX raced in Slinger 2 years ago, but not last year. And so it'll be good to see them back in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's good for the area for sure. And Kraus, so speaking of asphalt races, I think you're the only one of us that probably watched this race. I think it started at midnight, but little bit of excitement over there in Las Vegas. They had F1 over there. I saw some stuff on Facebook that night one was just a complete disaster for practice, and they weren't refunding people. They were giving people like vouchers, right? To hey, we're not going to give you your $200. Was it $200 to watch practice? Is that what it was? I saw $200 vouchers or something like that where people were getting where they could buy apparel and whatever. What stuck out to you from F1 at Las Vegas?
Yeah, it was. That's what caught my eye. I was on Facebook reading with storm drains popping up and guys wrecking their cars, and the Team Ferrari guy was mad, and then they penalized the guy for fixing his cars. There was just a whole bunch of drama there, but just what an event, though. I mean, just it's a racing event, so I like racing and I like watching racing, and not really into those cars. Never really got into Formula One. I did, I'm more Formula One way back in the day. There's some big names there, and when you watched IndyCar and Alonso Jr. and Fittipaldi and all those guys, you kind of watched F1 because they kind of crossed over there a little bit, but they haven't really get into it. But it was a hoopla. All the drivers said this is 99% show and 1% race. I saw that comment a bunch. The celebrities were I mean, you got Shaquille O'Neal was at the event. So I mean, it's just the celebrities that were there was crazy. The race was just kind of okay. Super cool layout. And you're racing in Vegas. I mean, that's going to be cool. So,
right down the strip, wasn't it?
What's that?
Wasn't it right down the strip?
Yeah, well, it was right down the strip. They had everything blocked off. They had big, tall walls, so the normal people couldn't see the race, and people complaining about that. And ticket prices were ridiculous. But overall, the race was just kind of okay. Max was it Verstappen? Is that his name? He kind of mopped up on everybody, and a little bit of a pit strategy there. And then I knew as soon as the pit strategy came back around, he was going to take the lead, and he pretty much drove away from the field. So he had a minor little battle there with the lead, but a big event, bring some money to the States. That's for sure. And that's always a good thing when we're bringing money, keeping the money over here. But overall, just an okay show. Not much, big, like I said, big, huge event. The racing was just kind of the sidekick of that deal.
I can't believe the attendance they get at those races. It's flabbergasting. For me, I look at it, I'm like, I'm a dirt guy. I enjoy watching dirt racing far more than I like watching that. But just, I mean, the amount of people that show up to that deal is just incredible. So, silly season, some add-ons to silly season, kind of making a list as we go. Talked about Billy Kendall last week, found out that he's going to be in an XR1 rocket. So pretty good hot rod. He's a pretty good driver. Doesn't race a ton. He's won some races in the mod. I've seen him put on some pretty darn good laps. He's going to be fun to watch this year. Nathan Sleto. He's kind of from over in your neck of the woods a little bit, isn't he, Kraus? Sleto's?
He is. He's actually he's from Alexandria, or right down the road. His dad's from town here. His dad ran Superstock back in the day for there a little bit. And then he kind of run Bemidji, kind of travels a little bit. He was here for some of our specials and hits some of the specials around. But I see, he's jumping classes.
Yeah, word on the street. He's got a late model coming here for 2024. And then we look bigger scene, right? We look to the World of Outlaws, a driver that was actually a pretty solid runner in the Beast of the Northeast and Big Block Modifieds. Max McLaughlin going to be jumping into a Longhorn late model, and he's just going to throw it right to the wolves. He ain't going to run no regional, whatever. He's jumping in. He's going World of Outlaw racing. I tell you, he's pretty good wheelman, though. I think he might adapt well, but he might have a little bit of a learning curve there with them boys.
Yeah, I just remembered one thing I was going to bring up during the hunt to the front. Did you notice that Spencer Hughes was racing?
I did not.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess I saw the name, but what happened there? What's the story?
Well, Spencer Hughes parted ways with his car owner not that long ago, and he was in the 19 car racing in the Hunt to the Front feature. I think that's the car that Will Harrington had raced before. And Harrington and the car owner had parted ways I don't know, month and a half ago or so. So that was interesting. I don't know if that was just a one race deal or if if he's going to be in that car more often, but I noticed that right away when I was watching that.
Good catch. Keep an eye on that. Take a peek as as the weeks progress. See if maybe that turns into a long-term deal. I want to give a shout out Kelly Esty. I don't have the exact numbers, right? They didn't keep data. Kelly's kind of old, so you got to go way back, right, to kind of keep track of some of this stuff. But I would say that Kelly's got to be, and I don't think it's close, probably the winningest mod driver and for sure like the northern Minnesota kind of our area. And one of the most winning mod drivers throughout Minnesota. The guy's won everything. He's won a ton of races, championships, you name it. Um, he's done the Brett Favre, I'm gonna quit, I'm gonna race, I'm gonna quit, I'm gonna race. Well, he said he's done. Things are sold. Saturday night, Homer Bar, Hibbing, Minnesota. Kelly Esty is going to have his retirement party. And congratulations. Me and him didn't always see eye to eye when we raced. We were both highly competitive. But I tell you what, that family's done a lot for racing. Going to be sad to see him go. Mac, maybe a race more. I'm not sure. Skeeter's a hell of a driver. But congratulations, Kelly Esty, on a great career. And look forward to seeing you probably this summer, maybe again in the 37. Who knows? But we'll see what happens.
And I have a driver to add to the switching classes. I received confirmation after last week's show. I didn't even contact him. He listens to the show, and he sent me a message on Facebook. And he told me that I can release the news about this. But you have to guess the driver because you couldn't guess it last week. Race late models in the past. Race modifieds more recently from central Wisconsin. His dad raced late models.
Oh, his dad? Chris Ortell?
Yes.
Ha! How's that for a guess? Boom! Right there. Okay. Chris Ortell going to be in a late model. So is he going to run over kind of eastern Wisconsin then, or is he going to kind of bounce around Mississippi Thunder, Cedar Lake?
He said he plans on racing at Seymour and Shawano and then following the Dirt Kings tour.
Former winner of the Silver 1000, kind of made a weird
that was going to be another hint that I was going to give you.
Yeah, left with the Northerners' money. I don't know about that, but I got to race against him a little bit when I raced Scott Duvall's car, and hell of a good driver. Going to be fun to watch him this year in that late model. Do you know what he got? Do you know what kind of chassis?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to look if it's in the message, and if it's not in the message, I'll ask him.
All right, Chris, post in the comments for us. I know he watches the show. So let's jump into our final segment here, guys. 3 bold predictions. Shout out to Mason Aaron's videos. Check them out on YouTube, on Facebook. Great ambassador to the sport. If you're a racer, if you're a racetrack, you want a little highlight video type of deal, he does that kind of stuff. Does really good work. So off the board this week, Coach Kraus. You said the Herminator, Kenny Wallace, was going to win the Turkey Bowl in the modified. Didn't make the show. You jinxed him. You got a bad beat here. Kind of a bad beat for you. You said Joseph Joyner was going to win at Duck River. And that was a hunt the front deal or whatever. I mean, I kind of figured maybe he'd go too. Well, he won, but it wasn't there. He won at Southern Raceway, so he did not win at Duck River. But you did say that Chris Smokey Madden was going to not only qualify first, win the heat, but he was going to win the feature and sweep the whole deal at the Blue Gray 100. So that's kind of a clean sweep for you. Bert, you said the Southern All-Stars late model, and I believe that he's the champion of the series, Caleb Gay, was going to get a pair of podiums at the Southern Raceway. I think he got in an altercation in the first feature, which sent him to the back. In fact, I know he did. He was running second. This was an interesting deal. This is a bad beat because he got 10th night 1, he got 3rd night 2. So he's running second, and somehow he gets together with the leader, which was Dalton Cook, and gets himself turned around, right? The yellow comes out, and Dwayne Keith, the announcer's like, boy, did he catch a break. Christmas come early because there was a lapper or somebody else that spun out, and they said, we're going to throw the yellow on that guy. Well, then they kind of farted around a little bit, and they're like, nah, the yellow is on that guy, but he was also stopped on the track, so they put him to the back anyway. He was pissed. So it was kind of a bad timing deal for him. So you almost had it. You should have had it, but you didn't have it. And you did get one, though. You said the thrill from Mooresville. Nick Hoffman was going to win the A-Mod A-Main at Volusia, and he's really good there, and he got her done in the 7. Clean sweep for the 71A. Tanner English is going to win at least one this weekend, and he did. He got her done. I said 3 different chassis would win late model features out of the races that we chose, right? So we had Longhorns, we had a couple Rockets in there, and we had the BMF of Tanner English making it the trio. I also said that Cherokee would be a train. Now, this one is up for discussion. If you guys die on a hill and you're like, no. I said Cherokee's going to be a train race by lap 15. So it didn't rubber, but it was a train race on lap 1, in my opinion. So, Kraus?
Bert, I thought he said it's going to rubber on lap 15. Did he not?
I don't recall hearing the word train last week.
We're going to have to go back.
We may have to go back and listen to that.
We're going to have to go back and listen because Jeff sent it over, not Jeff Kraus, our other Jeff. He sent it over that Cherokee will be a train race by lap 15. That's how he worded it. Now, I don't know if he took the exact wording that I had and then just wrote it down, or if he altered that and made his own wording. If, in fact, I said Cherokee's going to be a train race by lap 15, can we agree that that would be the case? If, in fact, that I said it's going to be rubbered by lap 15, then it's an absolute no. So we'll go back. For now, I get the point, but we can audit this one and make sure that I got the win. So our standings,
we have checks and balances. We're going to audit it.
we do. We'll check on that. So Bert, we're going to put you on that. Just go back to the shows, get back to the end, and then you can let us know if that one stands. Right now, I'm at 53 correct, 77 incorrect, 40.8%. Bert, you're at 49 correct, 87 incorrect for a 36 point percentage. And Coach Kraus, you got 13 correct, and you're at 19.1. You got a late start and probably threw a couple haymakers in there that your batting average was pretty low. Your batting average was low. So this week's 3. So we typically racing related, something that either did or did not happen. And as you know, we keep ourselves accountable on this deal, but we make 3 picks, 3 laps around the track. I'm going to start. RTJ is going to be in the world of all. I'm just kidding. So we'll start with Bert. We'll go to Coach Kraus. We'll come back to me. So
okay, I'll
Bert,
go.
Your first pick.
I will go with Carson Macedo will win at least one feature this weekend in the USAC Midgets.
Okay. Kraus?
Well, we're getting it out of the way right away. We're going RTJ is going to be following the World Outlaw Late Model Tour next year.
All right. I'm gonna go over to the USAC Midgets as well. Cannon McIntosh is going to have the best average finish over the 3 nights at the USAC Midget shows between Merced and Ventura this week. Bert?
All right, I'm going to stay with the USAC Midgets, and I'm going to go with CV is going to seal the deal for his championship by winning at least 2 features this weekend. Logan
Seavey going to get her done. Okay. All right. So he's going to seal the deal on the championship and he's going to win 2?
Yes.
So that's a parlay deal there. Okay. So he's going to win at least 2 and he's going to seal the deal on the points. All right. Coach Kraus.
I'm going to, I don't know if it's too bold, but I need some points, Bert. Rico Breu, he's going to make an announcement that he'll be joining the I haven't seen much at anything. He's going to be running the high limit series next year full time. I'm going to make a prediction, say that's going to happen.
I saw you had a post out there that was kind of what should I do? Should I kind of stick with the being the outlaw and kind of run wherever I want? Should I follow the Woo? Should I follow them? And it kind of had like a little poll there.
Yeah, he was asking his fans to give him some advice.
Right. So that'll be interesting. See, if he follows that whole series, he can run all the World of Outlaw shows that he wants to run, and there's no conflict. So you might be onto something. I'm going to go sprint car racing as well. There will be more 100,000 win or more shows for sprint cars, 410 wing sprint cars in 2024 than there is for late models. More 100 grand to win shows for sprint cars than there is for late models in 2024. Bert?
All right. I am going to go. There will be at least 3 drive. Well, I need points too. I don't know if I'll get a point, but there'll be at least 3 drivers from the top 10 from the final standings of Lucas who will switch to World of Outlaws next year for late models.
3 drivers from World of Outlaws that'll switch to Lucas, not the other way around.
No, Lucas to World of Outlaws.
Okay, 3 from Lucas to World of Outlaws. Okay.
Yeah.
At least 3.
From the top 10 in the point standings.
Oh, okay. That's pretty bold. I'm Kraus, what's your third and final one?
My last one, the Lucas Oil Late Model Series is going to change their format. I'm going to make a prediction right now that they're going to be doing something different. It's the reason why their schedule's not out right now. It's the reason why some of these drivers are acting up. I think they want change. I'm going to go out on the limb, say they are going to be changing their the whole system. So it's not going to be the 4 at the end. It's going to be a complete new system.
Okay. Any speculation on what it might be, or do you think it might be and this doesn't count for the points. You're just saying there's going to be change, but do you think it could be the same deal, but the 4 drivers have a 4 race deal? Something like that, or no?
There's something going down. Why haven't they come out with their schedule? You know what I mean? They're always first, and they always want to do it. And they're really that much. World Outlaws is about the same weekend as they're putting their schedule out. So there's something going on there. I don't know if they had some drivers or some owners going off on it. And like I said, RTJ, you know how he is on social media with his posts and sending out the cryptic messages, so to speak, or cryptic tweets, they always say.
Right.
There's something going on. So I would assume, that format worked out great. It was fun to watch, but I think when you got more of the drivers and the owners upset, maybe they are going to go to a playoff systems, kind of like the NASCAR, and get it set up, at track. Say, hey, we're going to go from 12 to 8 to 4 to the final or whatever.
Yeah, I guess time will tell. Probably sooner rather than later. So I'm going to go with my third and final pick here, and I'm going to go sprint car racing again. Donnie Schatz has won 5 features in each of the last 3 seasons. In 2024, he will double that amount. Donnie Schatz will win at least 10 A-mains. And I'm not saying just World of Outlaws. It could be a collection of anything. Donnie Schatz will have at least 10 A-main feature wins in the 2024 racing season. We need to have him back up front. That's what we need to see. One last hurrah there. It probably got a little easier there, right, with old Brad Sweet leaving, right? So, if he gets another couple to follow, then it might be even easier yet. But I think Schatz I think he's still got some gas left in the tank, so to speak. So, guys, that's a wrap. Episode 204 in the book. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys again and your families, and all of our fans and viewers and everybody that's watching the show. And any closing thoughts from you guys before we sign off?
No, I just concur with you. Happy Thanksgiving to both of you and to all of our listeners also.
Yeah, same thing. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Not for me. I got a busy week of hockey. We got a game tomorrow, Thursday off, and then I got games Friday and Saturday too. So we're Two of them are at home though, so that's nice. We were at home last weekend too, so it's just nice to be at home. But still got to travel, still got to work. Some of us got to work there full time. I'm sure you'll be trucking busy time of the year. So yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you guys, and you guys have a good week.
Sounds good, man. Well, as always, I'm Ryan Aho. That's Bert Lehman. That's Coach Jeff Krause. Thanks for tuning in to the One to Go Show.